GearNetwork.com.
This is a Gear Network production.
I am the greatest. The greatest.
JC Money.
From the Gear Network Studios, it's the JC Money Podcast with your host, John Cimino, a.k.a. JC Money. And now, here's John.
Welcome, everybody, to the JC Money Show here on the Gear Radio Network. How's it going, everybody? The JC Money Podcast today is brought to you commercial-free thanks to Indy Card Media, one of our major sponsors here at the Gear Radio Network. Ladies and gentlemen, until Friday of this week, they are doing, it's unbelievable here, 50% off. Go to facebook.com/Indy Card Media and get in touch with Eric, that's Eric Emanon, or email him, indycardmafia@gmail.com. Get in touch with him and bring your design, your picture, your visual that you have in your head, whether it's a brand, whether it's a shirt, whether it's something fun, whatever. Get at him. He's a good dude. Look at all the logos that we have here. He's a good dude. He's really good. So, commercial free thanks to Indy Card Media. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're live today. The importance of being live is that today is Election Day. So, I'll give you a few things on Election Day. I'm not going to sway you one way or the other. You're going to vote however you want. I certainly did. Perhaps Dawn and I will be doing Get Ready America later on tonight as election night, as it becomes election night and polls start to close. Either way, we're going to do a Get Ready America this week again because last week was a wonderful, wonderful turnout. And I thank everybody for going and listening and doing us good. I appreciate it. It was fun to bring Get Ready America back anyways. But all right, as far as Election Day goes, You know the story by now. America dislikes the candidates from the two major parties. For the Democratic side, Hillary Rodham Clinton. And for the Republican side, Donald J. Trump. Now, in my experience here, and I've taken this whole thing from the beginning of this election process all the way to now. First of all, thank God that it is going to be over. I cannot begin to tell you how painfully irritating it was to listen to, quite frankly, a lot of uneducated people on multiple sides. I'm not just saying Trump supporters. So Trump supporter, if you're like, hey man, he talking about me, shut up. No, I'm not talking about you alone. Because there are some dumbasses on the Hillary Clinton side too. The thing that gets me the most is not I'm voting for Clinton, or I'm voting for Trump, or I'm voting for Jill Stein, or I'm voting for Gary Johnson. At least you're voting. So whichever one you don't like, you do have the power to vote and say, hey, I voted for so-and-so. I voted for so-and-so. Gary Johnson represented the change I believed in. Donald Trump represented the change I believed in. Hillary Clinton represented the change that I believe in, the direction I wanted the country to go for. Jill Stein, albeit very minuscule, she'll have very minuscule chance of getting anywhere close to Gary Johnson even, but let alone Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump. Jill Stein, Green Party. That's my girl. That's who I believe in. And you'll be able to have those conversations, and you'll be able to debate. And you know what? By voting, my personal opinion, regardless of the outcome, you will at least be able to say, I did what I had to do. I did my part. You know, don't blame me. Straight and simple. It's not voting that bothers me the most, because not voting, for some reason or another, people seem to think that is like taking a stand. You know, I'm taking a stand. I don't like any candidates, so I'm not going to vote. Bullshit. Okay? Bullshit. You realize by not voting that the party that you are secretly hoping that you don't want to win may end up with an advantage because of the fact that you didn't vote. So let me give you an example. I don't like Trump or Hillary, but I don't know much about Johnson or Stein. So you know what? I'm not going to vote. No way. Not going to vote at all. I don't like Trump or Hillary. Fuck it. I don't care. Well, then a year or so later, and something happens that Trump or Hillary do. Well, I didn't vote. I didn't vote. Well, you know what? You didn't vote because you didn't like either candidate, but you identify more. You're registered as a Democrat or a Republican, and if you're a Democrat, the Republican won by XYZ amount of votes. Well, my vote wouldn't have counted in the grand scheme of things. Yes, it could have. Look at Gore and look at Bush in 2000. They had to do a recount. It was so close. So your vote does count, regardless of whether or not you think it doesn't. So I think realistically, the voting process right from the beginning, especially if you're a female and you're a female and you're not voting, you're as big of an asshole as a male. That would do it because of the fact that look at Susan B. Anthony. She got in trouble for voting. Voting for women wasn't legal until a certain time period. So now you have this right that you should have been given right from the beginning, and you're choosing not to utilize it. I mean, realistically, if you vote your party, you're an adult. If you vote, you're an adult. If you don't vote, you're an asshole. That's really all there is to it, and that is probably not going to be the popular opinion. But that's the truth. Voting is your privilege. But it is also your right to do. You have the right to do it. You have the right to not do it, but I also have the right to say you can't complain, and if you do complain that none of the policies that you voted for or against are in place, then, you can't have your cake and eat it too, is what I'm saying. So please do your due diligence. In New York State, you have until 9 o'clock p.m. Nationally, you have until, I believe, 11 o'clock p.m. before the final results get tallied. So it's going to be a very late night here at Gear. But, and I had to sign off, personally, I had to sign off of Facebook because I'm afraid of what I'm going to see. But regardless, whatever you do, if you voted for Trump, if you voted for Hillary, if you voted for Gary Johnson, if you voted for Jill Stein, you did your part. And as an American citizen, I thank you. Because regardless of who you support, you still believe enough in the democracy process to go and do your part. And regardless of what side of the fence you play on, I respect that. So thank you. Now, on to things that can take your mind off of the election process. I got what I wanted to say out for that, and I'm sure I'll touch more on Get Ready America along with other slapstick stuff. But when I last did a JC Money podcast, I made mention of the situation involving Uncle Chris, his neck surgery, Nickel City Wrestling, the New York State Athletic Commission, all of that stuff. All of that stuff that JC Money Show podcast fans, Talking Wrestling fans like. A follow-up to that, Nickel City Wrestling /UW released Uncle Chris, quote unquote, released Uncle Chris. I always love it when independent wrestling says we release somebody, because a whole lot of you don't pay. So what are you releasing? What are you releasing them from? You're just telling them not to come back. But regardless of what happened that led to it, whether or not it was my podcast or the fact that so many people got on board with it, I mean, Uncle Chris unfriended me. So did Al Jihad. I don't give a shit either way. But the bigger picture here, when 95% of Western New York wrestling entirely The indies, the shindies, the people like me that are in the media now, former wrestlers, current wrestlers, people even on the UW side of the fence. I will go ahead and say it. People even on that side of the fence, all universally agreeing on, hey, your health is way, way, way more important than this thing. You know, when everybody comes together and agrees on one thing, that it's something major and it's something that you should probably listen to. I wish that could happen more often. That everybody on all sides of the fence can look and not twist words like Jesse Woodruff did. Thankfully, nobody listened to him. But not twist words and see it for what it was. People from the former ECPW regime, Keith Zimmer and LDC, whom I've never met, but I've never agreed with anything, and they've never agreed with anything with me. And we've had online spats back and forth through the course of time. They agreed with me, I agreed with them. We all got together and said, dude, this is what we're looking at. This is what we're thinking of. And I just wish that more of that can happen and less of the, less of the legit hatred over stupid wrestling bullshit. If you don't like the fact that I don't like your product, fine. But to make it a personal thing is completely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And it has created a whole hell of a lot of hate because of the fact that people have this high opinion of themselves, that they can't be knocked down a peg, or they can't interpret something as wrong, or it must be malicious. Every single thing we say or they say, it must be malicious, and it goes on both sides. It really does. It goes on both sides. I am no saint. I preach the truth. I speak the truth. Everything that happens that I talk about and I speak against legit happens. I don't make anything up. But in the same, I am just as guilty as being roped in from that side when, Terry Cadillac posts something stupid like, oh, wait till the idiots see this UPW poster from 2011, even though it's posted as a memory, and wait till they see it. Like, I know what you were doing, you fucking idiot. But Terry and my beef is very personal. But I'm talking about the others. It doesn't really have to be this way. And if that's the way you choose to do it, fine. You're going to be the ones that are going to be miserable in the end anyways, because I'm not miserable. I'm not miserable about wrestling. Wrestling, from being on the outside looking in and covering it the way I am, y'all give me material. So because y'all keep doing this and these battles keep happening, it gives me material to talk about, which translates into plays, which translates into people wanting to be guests on the show, which translates into more plays, which translates into people shopping through shopgear.com or going and buying a shirt on prowrestlingtees.com and supporting a local brand. That's what you guys do for me from the wrestling aspect at this point. I plan on going to IWF pre-show, maybe pop in during the show. I don't know. It depends on the schedule, but to cover it. And that's fun to me. And I would like to do that a little more often. Realistically, I can't. I'm rambling at this point. The bottom line of the whole ordeal is that wrestling is supposed to be fun. And it is taken way, way, way too seriously by the people that take themselves way, way, way too seriously and shouldn't. With that being said, the fact that so many people on all sides of the wrestling political fence, believe it or not, that so many people agreed on the Uncle Chris thing, and so many people reached out to me and said, I totally didn't take it as you being a dick. I totally took it as you were genuinely concerned. I mean, for Christ's sakes, this is my third podcast on that particular subject. Thank you. Thank you for understanding that. And if but for at very least a small portion of time, you all recognized the human element to all of this. I appreciate that. Uncle Chris may not, but in about 10 years, when he's still walking, maybe he will. So, Uncle Chris, I ain't mad at you for unfriending me on Facebook and blocking me. I said Facebook isn't life, so I don't really care. I still care about your health and well-being. I'm still going to follow this story and make sure that everything's okay, because you, in fact, did and were one of the first veterans of the area when I was a young boy in 2000 that didn't judge me. And that goes a long way. So Facebook or not, you're still good by me. I still hope for the best for you. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but UW and Nickel City Wrestling, thank you for seeing the big picture with this one. This was a win, not so much for Uncle Chris, but for the wrestling community on both sides in general. All right, that's going to do it for the JC Money Podcast this week, this episode. Join us again, probably another couple of weeks or so. Again, I mentioned I wanted to go to IWF, so I might snag an interview or two. I definitely want to talk to IWF champion Mark House, because I owe you one, Mark. I know I was going to do a Talking Wrestling special in October. It might not even be a JC Money Podcast. It might be Talking Wrestling. Who knows? Survivor Series is coming up. Goldberg versus Lesnar 2. I've definitely got thoughts on that I should probably share on Talking Wrestling. And maybe I will. But again, thank you very much. Do me a favor. It is the holiday season. ShopGERE.com takes you directly to Amazon. If you're going to do Amazon shopping, please go and use my link, ShopGERE.com. It'll take you right there. But it tells Amazon that we referred you, and your purchases, a small, tiny percentage of them, come back to me as kickback, which helps support the show. It is the easiest way to do it. Thank you very much for a big October with that. Thank you very much for a forthcoming big November. Go vote. If you haven't already, do it. Please do it now. Tune in later on, either later on today for Get Ready America, or later on this week for Get Ready America. Football Talk Weekly will be new this week as well, getting you prepped for week number 10 of the NFL season. Sorry, Cleveland Browns fans, you're 0-9, and now the rooting for 0-16 officially begins. This is John Cimino, a.k.a. JC Money, saying so long, everybody. Good night now.
The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network.